Good morning and a very warm welcome. I'm Geeta Pensay and I'm going to be your host guiding you through this event. It's great to have so many of you back with us and a few new faces joining us for the first time too. So welcome to you all. Now, Public Sector Levelling Up is being delivered to you by the Public Sector Executive, and the day will be packed full of opportunities to network and acquire current sector knowledge, whether that's through our incredible speakers or through our event partners in the digital marketplace. Now, we would like to thank all our industry leaders and experts for sharing their invaluable insights with us today. It's going to be a fantastic day with so many different voices coming through. Now, the content standard on our PSE 365 platform means that all the content is CPD certified. So for every hour of content that you watch live, you will get one CPD point, and your certificates will be with you within 24 hours of the conference ending. Alongside the keynotes and our panel discussions on the agenda for you to enjoy, we also have some really good networking opportunities through our speed networking function. It helps to extend the knowledge and connections shared today, which can be accessed at any time, ultimately growing our PSE 365 community. So let me tell you a bit more about our PSE platform. You and your teams can access a wealth of resources as part of our on-demand content alongside the digital marketplace. So please take a look, explore in your own time. Now, we do really value your views, so please feel free to share your thoughts throughout the day. We do have a hashtag for LinkedIn and for Twitter. Our hashtag is PSE-365. That's hashtag PSE-365. And please do share any feedback from the day and any conversations that have been sparked so that we can all learn together. Now, let's move on to the focus of today, levelling up. With a plan covering 12 new national levelling up missions to drive change in towns and cities across the UK by 2030, the shift of power to local leaders to encourage regional diversity and equal opportunities is at the top of the agenda of the UK government. Nonetheless, are leaders equipped with the skills and knowledge to navigate the ambitious missions supported by the £4.8 billion in funding? That is one of our questions today. Levelling up means leaders can prioritise their communities through regenerating towns and cities, improving local housing, connecting communities through national and regional digital connectivity, bridging the gap in community health and well-being, and increasing the education and skills of the next generation. The Levelling Up white paper released in February 2022 unveiled a plan that aimed to transform the UK to become one of the world's biggest and most dynamic economies. With each town and city embracing the challenge of levelling up and £4.8 billion of funding to back projects, it was certainly an exciting time for everyone across the UK. Today, however, we get to understand what has actually happened. Was it easy and successful for towns and cities, or were there major hurdles to jump? And if so, what were they? That's what we'll be delving into throughout the day. To begin with, and to open our conference, I am really delighted to be able to invite our keynote speaker, Adam Clark, who is Deputy City Mayor of Leicester City Council. A few words about Adam before he arrives. He's currently Leicester's Deputy City Mayor and has portfolio holder for climate, economy and culture. Immediately prior to joining the City Mayor's executive, Adam managed his own consultancy supporting resilience and access to heritage and the wider cultural sector. Now, Adam first joined Leicester City Council in May 2011. That's when he was first elected, and he's currently in his fourth term. He's been Deputy Mayor since 2017. In his keynote, Adam will describe Leicester's levelling up journey, their projects and potential. So can we give a warm virtual welcome to Adam Clark as he joins us on the virtual stage. Over to you, Adam.
Good morning, Geeta, and good morning. Thank you for that introduction. I want to ease you into the day and just really talk to you about Leicester's story, Leicester's levelling up story, and to talk to you not only about our levelling up projects as they are currently, but also how we've perhaps been levelling up for a long time, since 2011, arguably. If you could go on to the next slide, please. So we have three levelling up projects currently taking place. Um, we've got a workspace project at Pioneer Park near our National Space Centre and the Leicester University Space Park. And you can see there we have shovels in the ground there, really building on our experience of developing high quality workspace in the city. Pilot House is an ambitious project in the city centre, which I'll come on to a little bit more in a moment, and an incredibly ambitious railway station project to improve the access to the city centre and the experience for rail travellers in the city. Next slide, please. So, Pilot House is a workspace project where currently on site, I was in there earlier this week, delivering a change of massive proportions. It's several buildings, former local authority buildings with some units let, not the highest quality space. And what we want to turn it into is a world-class space for the creative industries where they can develop ideas together and work as one towards a shared vision for the city, of a city that is powered by the creative industries. Next slide, please. And Leicester railway station, anybody who's travelled into Leicester will probably argue that it's not the most attractive of experiences. There is huge potential to improve the gateway into the city and the public realm around the railway station. The station is one that is needs huge improvements, both inside and out. But we also want to create a destination in itself, so people will go to the Leicester railway station not just to travel, but also to shop and enjoy some of the F&B opportunities there as well. So there's a real regeneration opportunity at the station. Next slide, please. That's an image, an artist impression image of the station as well. But as I said, yeah, keep going, Jack. As I said earlier, we arguably started levelling up in 2011 when Leicester got its first directly elected city mayor, Sir Peter Soulsby. Sir Peter recognised from his previous role as leader of the council and as an MP in the city that Leicester was a series of oases that needed better connecting, and thus the Connecting Leicester project began, so that we could make the city an attractive destination for businesses, for shoppers, for visitors, to generate businesses, a new business and existing businesses, to enable them to flourish, but also to attract new residents particularly into the city centre, as we try to redefine what the nature of a city centre is in the 21st century. Next slide. And from the Connecting Leicester programme came the Transforming Cities Fund, and that helped us to build out what we were doing in the city centre, to develop transport links and employment opportunities and new residential areas within the city, so that the city could sustainably grow, but also meet the environmental challenges and wider challenges that all cities face. Next slide, please. And to do that, we recognised that we needed to be creative about how we coalesced funding streams around our vision, not chase after funding streams for the sake of it. We have a term within the local authority of tombola funding, and we'd like funding from central government to change, to get more kind of ministerial style settlements for local authorities. But in the absence of that, curating funding around our own vision has become something that we've seen as a skill that we've developed over the years. So Transforming Cities, levelling up, as we said, the Active Travel Fund, the Get Britain Building Fund, Zero Emissions Bus Project, the Bus Service Improvement Plan funding, and ERDF funding, as was, has really been our staple funding pots that have enabled us to deliver Connecting Leicester on those levelling up objectives as they became. Next slide, please. And this is just a quote from the Chief Executive of Active Travel England, talking about recognising in Parliament our ability to get bids together that really help us to meet our own vision and not follow the vision of particular funders necessarily, but recognise the sweet spot between the funders' vision and our vision for the city. Next slide. So this is going to be a bit of a challenge for Jack, who's driving the presentation this morning. This is going to show you how we have developed our Connecting Leicester programme in the city over the years, using those different funding streams from 2011. There you can see streets in Leicester city centre. The red streets are the ones that we have delivered connectivity to. So if you just slowly move us on, Jack, slide by. So if we go to 2012 and on again, 2013, you can see the connecting streets building up over the years to the present day. If you just take us forward, Jack, until you see some yellow streets, which shows you there where we're moving into now, right out into our neighbourhoods and into the city over that period. It's that longitudinal, long-term vision of understanding, building out from the city centre, developing and growing. And with that has come opportunities to develop new employment sites, new employment areas, and bring housing forward as well. Take us on, please. And here is just some images of some projects we've delivered over the years. A surface level car park. People told the mayor that if we take a surface level car park, city centre will die. And if you skip on to the next slide, please, we didn't agree with that. What we decided to create was some public realm within the city centre where people could congregate and pass through and enjoy the centre, and it actually promotes cycling and walking and those environmentally friendly forms of transport, promoting the motor vehicle. And actually what we've seen is businesses thrive in the area. No one is anymore asking for a surface level car park to be put back. If you skip us on again, Jack, thank you. So here we can see a fan park, a Leicester City fan park, when Leicester City were in Europe, can you believe it? They're now just at the top of the championship table, but it has become a space for people. If you take us on, Jack. This is just outside what is now the Richard III Visitor Centre, Peacock Lane. You know, quite what you might say a bog standard street with Leicester Cathedral, would you believe, over the road there. Next slide, please, Jack. And we transformed that space again, taking traffic out, moving the Richard III statue when Richard III was discovered from a park just down the way, outside the cathedral and the visitor centre, creating a high quality public realm. And again, Jack. And there you can see the Richard III Visitor Centre, that you know, the welcome there to the Richard III Visitor Centre, and that really just demonstrates the need to exploit moments in your place. You know, we could have been quite modest about the discovery of Richard III, and you know, and just carried on pretty much as was. You know, had a bit of a celebration, but what we did is we recognised that this was a real opportunity for our tourist economy. It was a really important story that we wanted to tell, but to tell well is what brought the real economic benefit to the city. Next slide, please. Some more before and after pictures here. I'm just happy for you just to skip through gently, Jack, these slides here. So this is Millstone Lane. They called it a back street, and we shouldn't be investing in back streets. Now it's a street that has got people moving into the city centre, new businesses, particularly bars opening up in this old town part of the city. Take us on. One of the marquee moments, really, right in the early days of the mayoral authority, was the taking down of the Belgrave flyover, which we did a deal with to really open up a gateway and a new green space, frankly on a roundabout, but it's actually a place now where people can congregate, and it's a gateway to the Belgrave Road, the Golden Mile, which hosts Britain's largest Diwali celebrations, indeed the largest Diwali celebrations outside of India. Take us on, please. City centre, taking dirty buses and dirty cars out, pedestrianisation, creating, you know, a wonderful space for people to enjoy our historic city centre, a real antidote to out of town parking. Take us on. And again, exploiting moments during COVID, we recognised that there was a need to get key workers into our Leicester Royal Infirmary and to enable people to do their 1 hour of exercise via cycling and walking. So what we decided to do was to create what became known as a key worker corridor to the Leicester Royal Infirmary. But that was so successful, we did 10 miles in 10 weeks of pop-up cycle and walking infrastructure, which is now being made permanent across the city, making active travel a real option for employees and employers in the city, but also creating safe routes for everybody. Take us on. Placemaking is so important as far as developing our visitor economy, which is incredibly important to the city of Leicester, but also to engendering a sense of pride for those who live in the city. The mayor talked about Leicester as being a modest city, a city that really needed to had an opportunity to burst with pride, but kind of had a sense of self-modesty, and we wanted to better tell the story of the city. So we have interpretation panels recognising the whole wealth and diversity of history across our city. Take us on. And we have some of the most amazing street art in the city, Europe's largest, tallest piece of street art, part of one of the largest free outdoor galleries you'll find anywhere in the world. Next slide, please. And that is complemented by active travel coming through the funding streams that I mentioned earlier, through Transforming Cities, through BSIP, through Zebra funding, electrifying our own bus fleet, the bus fleet that serves the hospital hopper service, that serves our park and ride services, our orbital routes, subsidised services, and our free city centre hop link service, connecting our 2 bus stations, our railway station, and important nodes within the city centre. But next slide, please. On top of that, we've also worked with the main bus operators, or all the bus operators in the city, to electrify their services through our enhanced partnership using the buses legislation that has enabled us to have an enhanced partnership whereby the bus operators agree to work together and with us to deliver better services, public transport first, ahead of profitable transport. And one of the key elements of that is not only electrification of our bus services, but also to ensure that we have a shared livery. You can have any colour you want as long as it's green, to paraphrase Henry Ford. Take us on. And that has been complemented through the Getting Building Fund success with the UK's first net zero bus station. So we have a growing buses. Half of passengers by the end of next year will be travelling on electric buses, and we have the UK's first net zero bus station at St Margaret's. It feels like an airport lounge, not a bus station, and it provides for real quality transport options, something that businesses want to see when they come and invest. They want their employees to be travelling sustainably, but also to be having pleasant journeys to and from work. Take us on. And that takes us back to our levelling up projects. Our levelling up projects are complementing the work that we have done previously. They are part of a wider project and vision for a 21st century city that recognises its heritage, recognises its uniqueness, recognises the quality of the public realm, and delivers a great place to do business. Next slide, please. And that is a rattle through Leicester's story. Over to you, Geeta.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Adam, for opening our conference today. And as someone who knows Leicester very well myself, it's wonderful to hear all the changes that you've been making. So we're going to move on now to our first leaders debate, discussing transport and air quality in partnership with Mobility Ways Limited. Now, transport, as we've been hearing from Adam's keynote, is central to levelling up. The objective is to make towns and cities work better for citizens and visitors alike. Now, whilst big ticket projects such as HS2 are in the limelight, the recent Levelling Up Fund awards highlight how transport priorities are a critical part of the regeneration agenda. Now, the fund was oversubscribed with ambitious transport programmes, including Crossrail Cardiff, Shrewsbury Smithfield, and Lincoln Western Gateway, securing big awards after promising to open up new areas for housing development to promote wider regeneration and deliver more sustainable transport solutions. Other successful projects include £40 million for the West Yorkshire Combined Authority to transform its bus services. The North East Combined Authority received nearly £20 million to buy more than 50 new electric buses. And Belfast International Airport received £2.3 million to purchase electric buses. Now, of course, this is seen as really important and crucial, but with the pressure of building out an EV infrastructure, the roads in and around our towns and cities need to be fit for purpose. Better roads, better air quality, better economy. This is where intelligent transport systems play a role. And to explain why levelling up transport is vital for air quality and the growth of the UK economy, let me introduce our panellists. We have Graham Bannister, who is Sector Director at Mobility Ways Limited, Darren Capes, who is across Intelligent Transport Systems at the Department for Transport, Vivi Michalaki, Head of Intelligent Transport System and Mobility for National Highways, and Professor Henry T, Director of New Mobility Technologies at Connected Places Catapult. Welcome to you all. I can see you all joining me now. Before we hear from you, just to say, this is our first debate of the morning, but throughout the day, we really do want to put your questions to our panelists. So as we're speaking, if there are any questions that you have that you would like to put to a panelist, please use the Q&A function on the right of your screens. I'll try and keep an eye on that and put as many questions as I can to our brilliant panelists. But I thought let's get started by just learning a bit about what you do and in particular your interest when it comes to levelling up and transport. So Graham, let's start with you.
Yeah, good morning everyone. So yes, Graham Bannister from Mobility Ways. Mobility Ways is a leader in transport decarbonisation and the leader in tackling commuting emissions, which account for approximately 5% of the UK's total carbon footprint. Through tech-enabled solutions, so technology, ITS, Mobility Ways supports clients with their overall workplace strategy by better understanding how their workforce commute. Once we've baselined their actual and their potential, we then can create robust plans to accelerate sustainable. Employee benefits from doing this include cost of living support in cost of living pressures and enhancing well-being, and from an employer perspective, more robust resourcing strategy and sort of really importantly data to evidence carbon. That's what we do.
Brilliant, thank you, Graham. Darren, over to you.
Hello, thank you, Geeta, and great to be here. Yes, my name is Darren Capes. I'm Intelligent Transport Systems Policy Lead at Department for Transport. So what does that mean? Well, I'm involved in leading driving the use of intelligent transport systems on the local roads network. So sadly, I don't get to work with Vivi that often because she obviously represents the strategic road network. My focus is on the local road network, which basically means cities and rural areas, and really trying to support local authorities, the 155 local authorities in England, trying to support them with guidance and funding and any other support we can give them to ensure that they use technology to the maximum and ensure that we move from where we are now to the future we want in terms of better technology, connected vehicles, autonomy, the things that we know coming in the next 5 to 10 years, ensuring that we have the stage set as best we can to start to adopt those technologies and see the benefits in terms of air quality and city vitality and all the other things that we know could come from better use of technology on the network. Brilliant,
thank you, Darren. Vivi, what about yourself?
Thank you. To Darren's great introduction, I'm as the head of ITS and mobility in National Highways. I'm looking after the development and innovation side of ITS mostly. So it's the early stages of how new technology solutions can be investigated and implemented on the network before they move into the next phases of being operational. And things like connectivity, automation are in our agenda. Of course, operational technologies as they currently sit on the network, because we have some major parts of the strategic road network, especially motorways, that are heavily instrumented. So we're looking for ways to make that more efficient. And also in the mobility space, a crucial work stream is around integration with the local network, actually, and how we can better work together on a national level. So not just looking at the major roads, but how we can link end-to-end journeys for customers. So that's in a nutshell what I do.
Brilliant.
Thank
Thank you, Vivi. Obviously, we'll get into the detail, but Henry, last but not least, just a sort of outline of your current role and sort of interest around levelling up in transport.
Yep. Thank you. I'm the director for new mobility technology at the Connected Places Catapult, and then for people that know that we are the innovation centres for UK to help with economic growth and enabling business to access the UK and global market through exploiting the innovations and commercializations. And one of my main focus around in the transport sector is how we unlock the potential through helping industry and also the end user community in supporting of transitional digitizations, applying AI. How do we strive into decarbonizations? I mean, fundamentally, how we optimizing our one of the world most first advanced transport system in the world, and how to enable us to have a better future.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And just a reminder, really, that if you have any questions while our panelists are speaking, do pop them in the Ask Your Question box, and I will be keeping a close eye on that to put those questions in the time that we have. Graham, let me start with you. How is ITS being deployed when it comes to levelling up? Do you have any good examples of best practice?
So I think when you consider ITS and levelling up, I mean, boil it down to a word: technology. So where can technology be deployed to make the transport network cleaner, safer, and more effective? If technology can do that, then it absolutely should. And obviously, we've got some great panelists here who are looking at all the innovations that can support this in the future. I guess the challenge with technology often is kind of the cost-benefit analysis, and particularly, I guess, in this environment where there is tightness around funding, quite a lot of high pressure, particularly in the sort of the council space and authority space, not to deploy technology that later may be deemed to be the wrong solution. I think in the levelling up projects that you're seeing, I just did a quick analysis for those projects where travel or transport is explicitly mentioned in the title. I think there's about 20% of those projects. It's about 750 million. But I think across all the levelling up projects, whether it be health, well-being, destination projects, there's transport implications both in the build, and I really do hope that obviously as part of these projects, sustainable transport is really being considered and integrated into the overall plan, because obviously, when it comes to air quality, what do we need? We need to reduce congestion, and we need to decrease the use of cars. More people need to use their own car less. So hopefully these projects are tackling that.
Yeah, it's so interlinked, as you mentioned, with, that's why we're looking at both air quality as well as investment in transport. Darren, from the government side, is government intervention needed in this area?
I think it is. I think there's a very interesting question there that I don't really know the answer to about how much that should be. And I think that there's obviously a tension here between a view that this is very much for government to organise, and we should really be doing everything we can, to the other view, which is let the market decide, let technology flourish, and let the best come forward. And I think for us the answer is somewhere in the middle. I think we see our role in terms of ensuring that standards are in place, ensuring that harmonised standards exist, that authorities can procure in a way that ensures that they have confidence that they're buying the right technology, that data is available, that open standards where that systems can be built in neighbouring authorities that interlink. And I think that's the kind of background way in which government will work, and we need to do that in a way that doesn't diminish the ability for technology to flourish and develop. The last thing you want are government built technology systems. That's the last thing any of us want. We want the innovators to do that. So recent examples are things like the national parking platform that we've announced this week, which is a government initiative to build a single platform that integrates parking apps with parking providers. So you can have one app on your phone that allows you to park in any car park, and the platform in the middle of that moves the money and moves the data around to ensure that happens in a very open way. That potentially saves a huge amount of travel in cities. It allows people to park more freely and more easily. It saves congestion potentially. It makes that whole process simpler. Government's role in that is to specify and build that intermediate platform. It's not to own the car parks, it's not to write the apps, it's to do the work in the middle. And I think that's a good example of how government should function in this space. Our job is to open up the market, to remove the barriers, to intervene where there is a blockage, but then basically leave the technology innovators to get on and do the things that they're good at.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. And I have to say, personally, that app sounds fantastic. Anyone who tries to park, I'm sure, has had that thing where their phone is 15 apps.
Of course, the point is it's not an app. The point is that we won't build an app. We will let the market build any number of apps, and you can pick whichever one you want, because that's the best way to do that. What we will build is the thing that sits behind it that allows all the money to move freely and for that ecosystem to develop.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that clarity. Henry, how do you increase the take-up of ITS?
I think there's two things that as Darren already mentioned, and one thing I think from a leveling up perspective is we need to consider have we got sufficient skill and capability in the local government to actually understanding the emerging technology that's been coming up. I mean, at the moment, quite a lot of the local authority are set to how to replace the current systems. How do I buy the system that are available currently that we are using at the moment? So there's an educational piece to allowing the local authority to be aware of what the future technologies enabling them to do, and then almost how they think about establishing the requirement for procurement. And that's one of the things that we've been working with the government in the last year or so, doing something called the Manual for Smart Street that provide the guidance for local authority. On the other hand, as well, because of that bit is missing of the requirement, industry and the market, they just randomly providing technology solutions that they think this is the problem of the government at the moment or the environment at the moment. And I think by sharing that information of two-way, what's technology available, and being smarter about the requirement and current challenges, we can spend money much wiser, able to develop things much quicker, and how we're optimizing our current available technology already using with the new technology that incoming.
Okay, thank you. And Vivi, just looking at kind of your role with National Highways, how can the strategic road network and wider road network support levelling up specifically through ITS?
This is definitely a complex topic, but I think as National Highways and the fact that we are looking across the nationwide network gets us in that position where we can promote initiatives that are not focused on specific regions, especially. So there are things, for example, around electric vehicle charging points, which we provide across the country. Now, to what was discussed by Darren earlier, this is always an interesting topic because it's that debate as to what comes first. So, for example, since we're talking about air quality in electric vehicles, for example, how much do we need to promote that before customers can actually take up enough of that new technology, or how much do we wait for customers to engage before we promote it? And I think we're in that position where we want to be more proactive in that space. And other things, for example, are around digital connectivity. So there is a new initiative within National Highways to create a platform for us to be able to share traffic-related data, journey data with any provider. Because again, to Darren's point, we're not going to be the ones creating an app, and we have in the past, but we're moving away from that. We're not going to be the ones owning those apps, but we are the ones that will be providing the data and information to the right providers that will then be used by the customers to access the right information. So we're building those platforms, and that will not be again, specific to a region that depend on connectivity, of course, will be across the whole country. So there are things that we can do towards leveling up that, again, focus on the whole network and not just specific regions that have been in a more fortunate position, let's say, up until now.
Brilliant. Thank you, Vivi. I've just noticed, actually, we've had a question come through. So I'm going to put this to the panel, and whoever feels they can answer, put your hand up or just, go for it. But this is a question from Rebecca. And Rebecca asks, by making parking easier with this tech, which we've been talking about, is the government just encouraging people to choose cars for their journeys? Would a better focus be on removing barriers to sustainable travel, not removing barriers to driving? Darren, perhaps we come to you first, because obviously you're the first one to mention this tech.
I think that's a good point. And I think in all these things there has to be balance, and obviously the government is investing heavily in initiatives such as Active Travel England at the moment, and giving them statutory powers to get local authorities to think more about active travel. I think we have to be pragmatic here, though. We have to realise that car use isn't going away, and we would like to see it limited, and we would like to see people make good transport choices. But private car use and the need to access our cities in vehicles isn't going to go away anytime soon, and we need to accommodate that, and we need to accommodate that wisely. And one of the things I would say around the national parking platform is it needs to be part in a city. It needs to be part of a set of solutions. So we may well free up the activity of parking by building the platform, but that doesn't mean we have to make it easier for people to commute into the city. It means that actually people that do can park more freely and maybe not travel around the city as much looking for free parking spaces. But again, the point is it has to be part of a much wider strategy. Another example of that, this week we've just announced £17 million of funding for local authorities to improve their traffic signals. Now, again, fundamentally, that's about them going and doing better maintenance and better and maintaining their signals, because that makes traffic flow more smoothly. Better signals makes traffic stop-start less, it flows more smoothly. But we are encouraging them as part of that to think about, as they go and do maintenance, can you put better pedestrian and cycle facilities in? Can you improve the way that you accommodate vulnerable road users? Can you build all that in as part of this program, which is fundamentally aimed at maintenance? And I think this is true of all technology. We have to think about it as part of a mix, and we have to think about doing the right thing for the thing we're trying to do, but not invoke unintended consequences and unintended outcomes as we're doing that. So I think it's a very valid point, and I completely accept it. But I think there is a need to address this particular issue.
Thank you, Darren. Oh, yeah, Graham.
Well, obviously car use isn't going away, but car use does need to change. It does need to be reduced, and our occupancy rates need to improve. And that's where we need to have a look at innovation in terms of, for example, the network itself. How is the network devised to allow people to share better? Stops along the way. We're talking about electrification and having to put in more stops along the network to provide charging points. Do those points also to create hubs where there can be better transit hubs that actually people can share trips and go to a part of their trip in one car, move into another car, or move into another mode of transport. So I think there's still a hell of a lot more to do. Let's not forget, we have to reduce car use by 20% by 2030. It's not happening right now. So parking can certainly, improving the parking arrangements and kind of making it easier for people to find parking, so not idling and not spending more time looking for it, fantastic. But we've got to, as you say, Darren, we've got to make it, this shouldn't be the gateway to make it easy for people to travel by car. That's got to change.
Yeah, Henry?
I think parking is one of the problem, and the Department of Transport is actively trying to solve. I mean, it's a complex system that we have in the transport sector. It depends on how we deploy where the parking are, how we make it easier. I mean, fundamentally, the whole point of transport system is trying to move people and goods from end to end. What we need to ensure that is providing a service that people can get to somewhere much easier. If there is a parking space for people to park easily to take on alternative transport, that's an improvement. When you say about 20% reductions, I don't mean people have to get rid of 20% of the car on the road. It's actually reducing the usage of the car journey by 20%. That's the most important thing for improving the air quality.
Exactly.
Brilliant. V, is there anything you want to add?
Just to emphasize that obviously car travel is a big challenge for us as well. And looking at the forecasts, we only see increase, even with the most optimistic scenario, let's say in the next 10 to 20 years. So yeah, that's definitely a challenge for us, even though parking technically is not on the strategic road network. But we are looking at ways for a shared mobility promotion, because to Graham's point about occupancy, again, it's really low on the major road network as well, and also links with other modes of transport, which is not necessarily something that we've been focusing on traditionally, but the focus is definitely shifting towards that. So looking at it, to Henry's point as well, as a transport system rather than road, rail, car, and everything just in separation, which is a long journey, no pun intended, but it's lots of work to be done.
Brilliant, thank you. What a great question. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for that, because clearly there's a lot of detail in that answer from our panelists. Thank you. I'm just conscious that we've only got about sort of four minutes left on our panel discussion. If there are any last questions, do send them in, and I'll try and put them to the panelists. But I think it might be a nice sort of a thought really around the future and what priorities should be when it comes to ITS and wider transport sector in supporting levelling up, say, in the next 5 years. Phoebe, let's start with you. What would be your priorities and I guess the challenges as well with that?
So in terms of ITS, I would say both, on one hand, physical and digital connectivity, which again there is plenty of room for improvement in that, and especially since we're talking about connectivity and automation coming into vehicles, we need to be able to have the right infrastructure to support that. So there is lots of work happening in that space. One thing is for sure, the way the network is, I mean, I'm talking about the road network that we operate, is at the moment is not necessarily ready to support all these new technologies that are coming in. So that's one of the major challenges, because technology advancements happen, and it's just a matter of how we can help them, and also make sure that we don't have an unintended consequence, I suppose, from them on the network. And it was mentioned, I think, in the keynote speech as well about skills. And I see that that's probably a challenge for the wider transport sector. And I notice there's so many players nowadays, especially with the technology innovation side. And it's a very diverse environment, and lots of different types of sectors are getting into the transport sector. So I think that that's a challenge, but also definitely an opportunity as to how we can harness all of those different skills that come into the transport area and help enhance it. So I see transport becoming much, much wider, and especially in the data space, technology space, tools like artificial intelligence, all of those things that are happening are influencing us, and there is definitely more to do in making the most of that.
Thank you, Vivi. Graham, what would be your priorities?
I think there's obviously some massive, foundational investment aspects that are going on, but I think one thing that really is important to me is the technology associated with behaviour change. What more needs to be done there, and innovation needs to be done there to get more people to use their own car less, particularly considering the various use cases of use, the purpose of trips. I mean, I was just looking at some National Travel Survey data just yesterday, and it was incredibly fascinating to me that between midnight and 8 a.m, 60% of all trips are for commuting. Now, are we thinking about that? Are we looking at the data? Are we working out how we therefore use behaviour change and gamification aspects to kind of engender change in what we're doing? So that's something I'm really interested to see, and I'm sure it's coming. And look forward to more conversation about it.
Thank you, Graham. Darren, what about yourself?
Thank you. I think 2 quick points really. So one of the other hats I wear is I'm vice president of the Institute of Highway Engineers. So with that hat on, I would absolutely support the point that Vivian made and others have made about skills and resource and ensuring that we get the right people into the sector, that we end up with a diverse workforce, that we encourage school leavers to think about this sector, that we reskill people we have to deal with new technologies. These are all things that we could spend another hour talking about, but we all know they need to be dealt with. My other point, putting my DFT hat back on again, my other point would be that I think our urban road network is much less using technology much less than many other aspects of our lives, and it's adopted technology very slowly, and we still have a very analog road network, and the road network has changed in the last 30 years much less than personal banking has, for example, in terms of how we use data. There is obviously something really sticky about how the road network currently works. There are obviously real barriers to adopting technology, and I think for me in government, working with the sector, working with local authorities, it's how do we unstick that? How do we start to be more digital? I think we can also see the future, the long distant future of self-driving vehicles and all that. I think we really struggle with that first step to better use of technology, and I'm really keen to understand how we make those steps into increasingly digitizing the network.
Thank you so much, Darren. And final thoughts from you, Henry, in terms of the future.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone's saying, so I'm just adding additional stuff. I mean, there's something I prepare about leveling up is at the moment that as the Catapult, we've done a study that the public sector spend about 300 million each year to buy different things, and then 60 billion of which is for the local government alone, and then we divide it by local authority in the way they buy stuff as well. We are not utilizing and optimizing how we spend the money, and we could be smarter on that. And also, I think historically we've been over specifying some of the requirements and leave very little room of innovations and providing that. So I think that's something that we need to consider on. And second thing latching on to what Graham talked about, changing behavior. I think one of the things is about providing the right information to the audience. I mean, at the moment, quite a lot of it is driven by price, time, but what would be very useful in the future, that especially no one mentioned the word AI, I will use the word AI in here as well, with all the data that coming up with, is showing that potential carbon emission that coming up to influence potential people judgment of how they're going to travel, amount of carbon emission is going to drive, and whether something that being more innovative in the future is, should we be charged people by the amount of carbon emission being used, generated, rather than by the cost of what is spent on. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, we have come to the end of our panel discussion, our first one. Thank you so much to Graham, Henry, Vivi, and Darren for your incredibly thought-provoking comments, and I'm sure they'll be landing with people throughout the day. So thank you so much. We are going to take a short break now so that you can digest what's been covered so far. If you do have a chance, please do take a look at our speed networking opportunities, a chance to connect with other delegates at our virtual conference today and share ideas and thoughts. We will be back at 10:40 for our chat on pride of place. So look forward to seeing you then.